Hey guys, and welcome to a video. Today I want to talk about an update on my Thorn Totem Shaman, and it's not gonna be the update that I would love to release, but more of an upgrade on how the past couple of days have been going, as well as having now a bit of a more comparison between like the balance in the game when it comes to like ward scaling, life scaling, and just different build approaches, because last Epoch does have some massive balancing changes, and based on that video, it's also gonna be my next video will be tackling on the bad things about LE, because I've been enjoying last Epoch now since the past like 3 weeks or something. I've put in like 250 hours, and I did enjoy my journey quite a lot, and I made a lot of videos talking about how amazing certain things are, but no game is perfect, and next video is going to be about the bad things about the game, and this is also like influenced about all the experience that I had so far. So anyways, talking about the Thorn Totem Shaman, we are currently level 93, and yeah, those 93 levels, I'd say 92.5 of it has been played on Corruption 100 on the Empowered Monolith. And this is not really a statement, and this is kind of like a bad showcase or feature, but the thing is, I want to have certain core items. As an example, the Storm-Carved Testament that is a drop from Lagon. What it does is, you have like some lightning pan, you have a flat lightning damage, as well as a chance to summon a Storm Totem on hit, which is like very good, because we are using the Storm Totem here as our one of our 5 main skills here, and this one we don't personally put it down. It's getting procced by the Storm-Carved Testament, right? So this was like one of the items that I really wanted to have. Problem was, since I'm playing Circle of Fortune, I had to kill the boss, I think like about 13 or 14 times in total. And thinking about that, every time I want to do a boss, we have to complete a bunch of like echoes, and then the bar fills up, the stability bar, and then you can do the boss, and then you have to do a bunch of echoes. So it's not like just like killing 15 times or something the end boss of the Ending the Storm, which is Lagon. It's also about completing like 300, 400, 500 echoes along the way, and this is quite time intense. And even though I'm a big fan of the Circle of Fortune and the kind of like soul self-an approach, the more I play COF, the more it shows that I should have probably gone trade, because instead of spending 2 days of grinding Lagon for the Storm-Carved Testament, in the trading guild, I could just go there and buy it for like 50k gold or even nothing, and I'm good to go, and I can start pushing corruption, right? And this is also like combining together like forging your legendaries, like buying LP items for niche and off-meta builds is super easy and accessible on trade, but it's not easy and accessible on the Circle of Fortune. But Soul Self-Found is just slower when it comes to that, but it's still like the better thing about like, hey, I found it myself, so that's good, right? So I would say let's run 1 or 2 echoes so you see how the build would perform like on now 230 corruption, and I'm still kind of like rocking a weapon that I purchased from the vendor because I couldn't get a better base, which is kind of sad, because I spent like 300,000 favor in terms of prophecies rolling for staves. And this one, I literally replaced that about an hour ago with this one, which is also kind of like a staff purchased for favor, and I just randomly rolled it. And the thing is, like, this staff base has +1 to all minions, and the horn staff has also +1 minion, right? So this was like one of the things, because if you take a look at the Thorn Totem, there is just so many cool notes in here that gives you like quite a lot of damage. So I think plus levels on Thorn Totem is massive for the build, so I don't really want to take any weapon. I would have wanted to have one over here, right? But my loot filter is pretty generic. It just shows every tier that I want to have on like 13 tier 6 plus from the 18 mods that I've selected, which also includes any kind of like what is this, like hybrid physical, minion penetration, flat damage, minion damage, like anything of that sort. But it's so hard to find upgrade. Anyways, so we're still playing as the Shaman here. We do have our self-castable Thorn Totem, and we want to get out our little Groot, which is the Summon Spriggan. Once this is fair enough, we just go into Spriggan form, and now we can just run around in a one-button style, and we just put down the totems, and yeah, pretty much crush everything. One downside that I did not know before, I was really hoping that the Stormcraft Testament with the chance to summon a Thorn Totem is actually triggered by your Thorn Totems or your Healing Totems in that case, which is not the case sadly. So it only triggers from your attack, so what you have to do is you right click with your Spirit Thorns to certain enemies, and then you have a chance per attack basically to summon the Thorn Totem, and I'm super unlucky right here. So here it is. Now it procced. You instantly see that from the storms over here, right? So in the, I would say, mapping or running echoes, you don't really do that too often, right? Maybe later on higher corruption when monsters do take longer. But comparing builds, you know, I don't think that you're gonna have a good time getting this to like 800 corruption or something like that, because the damage output is just not there, and my gear is okay, I would say. It is decent. I have some very nice parts, some usually suck, which is my weapon, for example. But for the average playstyle, there is nothing more to it than just running around and put down your totems, and they do all the work for you, and it's a very, very smooth playstyle. So it will heavily rely on patch notes and stuff like that, because let's assume, and this is probably what's gonna happen sooner or later, that they're gonna nerf ward builds, then this build starts to become a lot better, right? It's just passive nature when there is like some form of like a tier list, and as you saw, you just like put down your totems, they just do all the work for you, which is like super fine. But if you compare builds in terms of a tier list, you know, like every ward build feels like it's stronger than a life-based build, and I'm gonna tackle the topic in a bit after the showcases and why that is so. And also like of the damage level, you know, my Rune Master crits for like, I don't know, sometimes over 100,000. There's other builds that crit for even higher, and now I'm seeing my totems, they're critting for like 3,000, maybe 4,000 sometimes if I'm able to get certain other modifiers, right? Like the Yulra gloves that I'm sadly, I did find and I did farm it, but I sadly were not able to get Armor Shred on that, because Armor Shred is a very, very strong stat on your gear, and the Yulra gloves, basically, which are these ones over here, they say stats on this item also apply to your minions. And since your totems are minions and categorize as minions, for example, if you get like a 150% Armor Shred on there, then every totem with every single hit is applying 1.5 armor stacks, right? And this will have a major damage increase. But I'm wondering on how far you can drag that, and I don't think in the current meta that a Thorn Totem build can hold up with any kind of like Falconeer or Warlock or anything like that. And this is in one hand a bit problematic, where I would say that builds can, like, you know, not be as strong by default, which is also like a problem with the endless scaling. But in the other hand, you kind of like feel bad, even though like me as a solo self-found player in last Epoch, or solo account found basically, because I'm not trading with anybody and I do everything I do by myself. Technically just means, do I have a problem with that? In one hand, yes. In one hand, no. The yes point is I have a problem because my Rune Master had worse gear than the Thorn Totem Shaman, but had no problems going to Corruption 500, for example. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, you get a lot more fortune, because this is like based on your corruption level and how much kills you're doing, right? You could farm maybe like, let's say 10,000 favor in like an hour of farming 100 corruption, but you could also do like 1,000,000 favor in like an hour of farming corruption 1,000, for example, right? And also like the rarity aspect of finding more and better gear, you want to try to push the corruption, not insanely high. I think if a build can do 500 corruption, you should be super set, maybe even lower than that. Maybe like somewhere at a 350 to 400 should be the sweet spot. But I'm already having like some kind of like issues with the build on the way. There are still a lot of upgrades to do, so I think it is definitely possible to do like Corruption 500 with a build like that. But I would wonder if this would actually be capable of doing like 1,000 or something, right? And it brings me to the next point, where I would say about the difference between like a ward build and like the meta builds and so on, right? Because in the end of the day, you want to push corruption, and some builds are just, for example, for certain builds it's easier to run 1,000 corruption than for other builds to even get to 500, you know? And this is like a balancing issue. But anyways, forget about this. Let's talk about the build. How did I put it together, and what would be the next upgrade paths? As you saw, like echo-wise, it's just like a running through. I don't know how long we could keep it up with that. I would say about like 350, 400 corruption is where I would probably see that. If that would then feel good, I don't know, because I spent most of the time just running echoes for the Stormcarved Testament, and then another quite some time for the Eulara's Obsession, and I'm not even done with farming those either, right? So it's like a very big time consuming by just trying to get like your core items if you're playing Circle of Fortune. So, as I said, helmet, we have a plus Thorn Totem helmet. Better would even be tier 7. I think that it has plus 4 Thorn Totem skills. And basically, you just want to get all the big nodes, you know, like increased critical strike chance, you have increased spell damage, you have like your speed and range, and then you have like other things with more totems and extra peers and like so many cool things over here. I could literally spend like 30 points and I would even be happier to even have more. So I think like plus Thorn Totem skills is like very, very nice to have. This is just what I have, right? This is not like the best thing that you can get. Obviously not the base of the helmet sucks. I think there's like a base, meaning critical strike chance and stuff like that, which is like 10 times better, but you know, you just gotta deal with what you find. And in a solo self-owned environment, if I don't find anything better, I mean, this is what I got. And by the way, the LE planner for my build here is in the description below. For the chest, I was pretty lucky. I had a Titan Heart with 2 LP, and I merged it together and actually hit minion critical strike, multiplier, and spell damage for totems, which is like a massive damage increase, because flat damage is king and crit multiplier is king together with base crit, and there are relics that giving you base crit for totems, which is like very, very nice to have. For the amulet, I'm still running the Tears of the Forest. There have been a lot of people in my chat that said the best amulet that you can get would be the Death Rattle, and the reason for that is this one has minion critical strike multiplier on it, which is a lot of damage, and it also gives you like critical strike damage and percent damage from minions. But on the other hand, the Tears has the same implicit, but I think the Tears is still kind of like better. What do I mean by that? I get plus 2 Spriggan form and plus 2 summon Spriggan, which is not that important in my opinion, right? It's just nice to have. But we gain rage sustain, and we gain movement speed, and we get armor. So yes, the Death Rattle is more damage, but I think the overall Tears of the Forest is kind of nice, especially with the 2 rage gain per second per summon vine. And we have like, I think 18 vines around, because I can summon like, I think up to 12. And there is a point here on the summon Spriggan where he can also have 6 vines that are not limited by your vines, I think. So I can do 12 and he can do 6, and I guess like this is so much rage sustain that, as you see on my rage bar here, I could just stand here and spam my totems and I will just fill them up, right? And then when the veins attack and stuff like that, I didn't even have veins out, but now you see when I'm just walking around because of the Eterra's path here, every second you're moving, you have a 24% chance to cast Summon Vines, and it will always cast 3, so while you're like running echoes and stuff, you're just like permanently like summoning those while you move, basically, right? And as I said, when you're Spriggan attacks, you're also gonna do those, and when you teleport with your Silver Front, you're also gonna spawn like 6 vines or something, so it's pretty easy to keep your 12 stacks. And this is massive, massive rage sustain, and I'm probably having too much rage sustain at this point because of the Tears amulet. If I would take the other amulet, where it would the Death Rattle, it doesn't have any rage generation, right? There is ways to play around that, but probably what you have to do is drop one of your maximum totems, because every time you get a point into the forest that expands, you gain 1 maximum totem, which is nice, but you also increase the mana cost. And at some point, if you don't play Tears, if you don't play any other sources of rage generation, you're just gonna drop out of form non-stop because your totems are so freaking expensive. So yes, Death Rattle would make more damage, but also I probably have 1 less totem because I just cannot cover the mana cost. Iceland Mine with Frailty on hit and increased minion damage, which I am super happy about because there is not many modifiers that you can take here. For the weapon, I don't even want to talk about the weapon because this is what I was using for the majority of the time, and I upgraded this with this vendor item. And usually from the vendor, the vendor from the Circle of Fortune, they have like, I don't know, like 20 fortune potential. Absolute dog F bases. But I just cannot find anything better right now. It's just like me being super unlucky, but it is what it is. There are not really too many modifiers. You can have minion flat damage, you can have penetration, you can add cast speed, I think percent minion damage or something like that. So there are like quite a variety, but one thing that you want to make sure that you get this on a base that has +1 to minion skills. This one is from the vendor from the Circle of Fortune, and the Horn Staff would be the generic base that you can drop that also has +1 minion skills on the base itself. Then I'm running the Legacy of the Quiet Forest, which is super nice void and poison resistance, also extra poison resistance while transformed, and rage generation while in Spriggan form. So everything here aligns, and even armor. I slammed this together with CDR for my Rune Master, and I just had this laying around. I think I have another, or is it on my Rune Master? I'm not really sure, but I had a second Tears of the Forest without LP. The CDR doesn't really do anything, right? Because maybe it gets my teleport down a little bit lower, but you definitely want to have like % life or something like that on the Silver Front. I actually got minion health. I tried to get minion damage on it. Is also like minor, and personally in the late game it's super nice for now because you get a teleport skill and it sometimes help you to survive, but in the end of the day this item doesn't really have a lot of stats, right? It has attack and cast speed for summon vines and stuff, which temporarily is kind of like pointless because the vines are melee creatures and they're usually not even attacking. That's why I also opted into the Hunter's Bane, so your vines are doing ranged attacks, right? But what is this for? They are not dealing a lot of damage anyways, right? The plan would be to get the Yulra gloves with armor shred, and then my vines could also shred the armor of the enemy, and with the increased attack and cast speed, that would maybe help with the overall damage profile. The other ring is anything generic, you know, life, resistance, % life, like flat end % life, minion damage, something like that. Anything works over here, and this would actually be my second ring as well if I decided one point to get rid of the Silver Front. Then we have the gloves. These one dropped from Yulra on T3 plus, I would say, and I did have a couple of pairs already farmed up, more or less, and this one got health and health percentage. Here's another one with 1 LP, terribly rolled by the way, but what I'm currently doing is just grind, and every time I find a pair with like T6 or T7 shred, armor shred, I'm just mixing them together, and if I run out of gloves, then I farm more gloves, because, as I said, stats on this item also apply to your minions, so armor shred, frailty, anything like that would be super nice. I got mine now with increased minion damage, which is actually kind of like pointless, because any pair of gloves can add minion damage, so it doesn't really affect anything. But I destroyed my previous rare gloves to merge them with the Yulra's Obsession, and I just don't have any better pair right now. And yeah, this is just how it goes, right? The Eterra's Path, as I said, a lot of like life and movement speed and stuff like that. The +1 Entangling Roots is kind of pointless, but what you want to get as a legendary modifier would be movement speed and life. Same as the Stormcarved Testament, anything that's like, you know, maybe attunement, life, % minion damage, anything like that would help. And if I would slam all my gear perfectly together and getting more levels, I think I should be looking at about 3,500 life, and I'm currently in like 2,000. Hence shows like how bad my items actually really are. But the gearing would be still the same. And then for the totem, like idols, it would be anything like critical strike chance for base, then increased physical damage because our minions doing physical damage. Then aspect of the boar effect could be nice as well. It's like a passive layer. When you get hit, you spawn that, or shield basically and get damage reduction. Like cast speed would work, or anything totem damage, or resistance while transformed, anything. Just make sure that you try to get as close to like res kept as possible. I'm liking a little bit of fire and a little bit of necrotic, but looking pretty decent so far. And don't forget, when you're a shaman, when you summon totems, you're gaining resistance over here, as well as having the thorn shield. You can also spec into having more fire res, more poison res, or all res and poison res and stuff like that, while giving you a bunch of armor as well. For the key facts, as I said, res cap would be nice. Armor, we're sitting on like 3,000 right now, and if you spam the Thorn Shield, you're just ramping that up until you have like 8 stacks or something. And if you have like skills that the Thorn Shield has a longer duration, then you can even get up to like at a point where at like 17 or 18,000 what do you say, armor, which is insane basically, right? For the defense, you want to make sure that on the few rare items that you're having, you want to reach a 60% or as close to 60% cap on your endurance, and then quite a bit of endurance threshold, which makes you a lot tankier as well, and try to get the 100% crit strike avoidance. You're getting like 70 to 6%, I think, from your summon Spriggan over here. Yeah, 72. You just need to make sure to get 28% from other sources. I think I have like 23 over here. I just didn't get a better helmet yet, so if I get this to tier 5 or on my ring or something like that, then I would be critical strike capped as well. Good, let's take a look at the talents over here. I spent 20 points into the Primalist over here, mainly focusing for spell damage on minions. These would be the next points if I would go further to like level 97, 98, something like that. Taking the flat damage over here, as well as 1 point for my totems to be poison immune for better survivability. Rest is just like increased health and even more increased health and minion health. Then we go over to the Druid. I think this is like the first points that you want to get, because you want to unlock the Spriggan form and you want to unlock the Summon Spriggan, and this little minion does help quite a lot. And going here for a lot of percent endurance, for armor, for chance to gain a Thorn Shield when you get hit, some generic strength and attunement, and 3 points over here, so we gain more movement speed, and the movement speed is quite nice to have. Then for the Shaman tree, we have lots of attunement. We have like the increased totem damage. We do have flat lightning damage. It helps also our Storm Totem once we trigger it, so it's a very nice adaptation for single target. I don't think the Storm Totem is that necessary when you're running the Echoes, because your Thorn Totems are taking care of almost everything. But if you're bossing, you know, just right-click a little bit, apply your Frailty stacks that I have on my Amulet, for example, next to it, proccing the Thorn Totem and stuff like that, was a pretty nice. And actually, I did spec into the movement speed of Thorn Totem, but in the end of the day, this would only be applied while bossing, because I don't rely on my Thorn Totem, my Storm Totem at all while running the Echoes. So I moved the points away and just go or went for even more damage. Then rest in that, here more spell damage and minion spell damage, and yeah, totem cast speed, because don't forget your minion or your totems are still casting those thorns. And then on a Beastmaster tree, I just put in generic health points like strength and generic damage reduction. 4 points in the aspect of the ore, and then extra points for extra damage reduction, health regeneration rate. While that doesn't really mean a lot, because in the end of the day, if you're playing with the Titan Heart, it says you do not regenerate health, which is one hand a bad thing, but in the other hand, don't forget, we're summoning here 9 healing totems, and the healing totems are healing me all the time, and this is not considered health regeneration. So it wouldn't really matter too much if I have health regen or not, but you know, the 15% less damage taken while wielding a two-handed melee weapon, which a staff is, was quite a nice adaptation over there. And then, I don't know, I have 1 point over, so I don't even know where I would spend it. Probably going to start working my way up to where it is, so I need a couple more points. Probably it's going to be attunement and some extra res, or maybe even health and minion health, so I guess like a couple of points here, because you want to stack health, you want to get to a nice, fancy like 3,500 life on roll, basically. Good, then for the totem stuff, when you're leveling this build, you want to go for the Titan's Bane early on, and then 1 Pierce that will help significantly, and then you can basically go for the extra spell damage, the extra totems. But if you take extra totems, make sure to take Memories of Ithera. Early on, you're gonna spend like 2 or even 3 points over there just to like keep hammering your totems and get all the rage back. But the further you go, once you have like this amulet and your vine generation, stuff like that, you can spec points out of that, and you still gotta be super fine with the rage generation. But I think 1 point is kind of necessary to maintain that. Thorn Totem, as I said, I moved away from the movement speed notes over here, because realistically I only count on it when I'm bossing, and there, like for bossing, I don't need the movement speed. So I went over the Storm's Reach into Intensity, into Thunderstorm, as well as Direct Current for base crit, and the Critical Strike multiplier, which is like very nice damage over here. Then the Ithera's Blessing is also super nice, as well as the Rose Blooms. When you cast the Thorn Shield, you also cast Ithera's Blessing on the same target. So you're basically always like self-healing and giving you big armor shield. So occasionally I put down my totems and randomly just press like Thorn Shield so that it's up. I'm getting the extra resistance, the extra armor, as well as the extra healing on top of that. Summon Spriggan. First thing you want to do is like get the crit strike avoidance. I think that is like massive, and then you can take the other notes like dot trading per attunement, or I actually put in the creeping roots because like why not? I didn't feel it too necessary to put anything else over here, because this is like just for the Spriggan itself. So as long as it survives, probably have to like go other points, like making it a little bit more tanky and focus more on like minion dodge trading or something. Higher corruption, but at the moment I don't feel it was necessary at all, and I also opted in for the extra vines. And when it comes to the Spriggan itself, you know, you want to rush the spike totems and the unbound gardens here, so you're actually casting 3 totems every time you're doing that. As I said, the planner is in the description below. So that was the talents. We talked about the gearing. What about the blessings? I mean, I didn't even farm too much. I mean, the most of the time here I was spending on the farming the trinket basically, but it's super generic. You want to have like flat armor, percent armor, life. What else is there? I think there is one with like minion damage or something like that. Just make sure that if it says 100% increased physical damage is meant for you and not for your minions. So a lot of things are not applying to your minions when it comes to like the blessings. So you want to take like any generic notes, and I'm not even done with farming the blessings because I was just like so focused on farming the relic and stuff like that. And now I'm still running, trying to get the Eulera stuff going and so on. And this, yeah, it's super grindy effort, and I'm kind of like losing motivation on the way because I would like to push corruption, but there is just so much time that I need to put in to just farm the basics of the gear. And I think next cycle I'm actually gonna just play Trade League and work my way up there, because I think it's like, for me, playing different builds, it's like a lot better just buy the stuff that you need, that you like the gold that you farmed up with your other character. I hope I didn't forget anything. If so, then please let me know in the comments below. As I said, the planner is in the description below. So yeah, fancy, cool build, but as I said, I'm so looking forward to what EHG will do in the first cycle, the first big patch notes, the first balance manifesto, whatever they're gonna do, and trying to yeah, bring more builds in line, so some builds don't feel so weak compared to what others can achieve. So you want to just try to balance it out somehow. You don't want to have builds that can easily do 2000 corruption, while others can hardly push like 200 or 300 in that case, right? Good. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.